Hello and welcome to Career Talk. I'm Lee Hopwood, CEO at the CCMA and host of this live show where I chat with contact centre professionals to find out about their career journeys. And this is so that we can inspire both those working in our industry and those that may be wondering whether there really is a viable career in contact centres. And oh my goodness, there absolutely is. So here as another proof of the amazing careers that are possible is our very own Sarah Williams, Head of Customer Experience and Digital at Westminster City Council. She's also a head judge on the UK National Contact Centre Awards. Hello, Sarah.
Hi, Lee. Lovely to be here today. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you for joining us. Now, I wanted to start with the awards. So you are one of the head judges at, and dare I say it, the biggest and longest running awards programme dedicated to the UK contact centre industry, something that the CCMA is very, very proud of. But you're no stranger to the awards because you won Contact Centre Manager of the Year at these awards in 2018. Tell us about your experiences of the awards and what it means to you to be a head judge.
So I know I keep saying it, but it really is such an honour to be part of the UK National Contact Centre Awards, and the quality of the nominations and the standard of the presentations and the visits just gets better every single year. I really missed a trick the year I was recognised at the awards, judging by the stories we heard at this year's Gold Winners celebrations evening. So we heard from the winners about how they are still celebrating and sharing their successes. And I really wish I'd been smart enough to have a year of celebrations just like they are. The awards has opened up doors for me professionally and has had more than a helping hand in getting me to where I am today.
Do you know what? That's so good to hear. And one of the things that I feel is so important with the awards is really recognising individuals and also the industry and how much it has progressed and progressing year on year on year. And so it's really good to hear that it has had a helping hand in your career. So I want to go back to the beginning. When did you first start working in contact centres? And was it your first job or did you start somewhere else?
So when I first heard of the contact centre industry, I was in my early 20s. And I was actually working in the Northern Ireland Civil Service in a department now called Invest NI. So the department was responsible for driving inward investment into Northern Ireland, mainly from the States, at the start of to really support the economic recovery that was so desperately needed at the start of the peace process. As part of that role, I was involved in a visit from a huge American outsourcer that wanted to introduce this thing called contact centres to Northern Ireland. And they promised thousands of jobs to bring about economic and political stability. But I'd never heard of such an industry, and I was really fascinated by the opportunities that this could bring and really wanted to learn all about it. So luckily for me, 12 months later, one of these new contact centres opened up in my hometown in Bangor in Northern Ireland. And I just had to apply to see for myself what it was all about. So my first job in contact centres was on the phones, isn't it always? And I never forget my first day. I was so nervous. You know, those sweaty hands. I felt really sick when I went to take my first call. And I went home and told my mum that I just couldn't go back as it terrified me. Needless to say, she kicked me out the door the next day, and I've never looked back since. As part of this inward investment into Northern Ireland, Abbey National, who are now Santander, also opened a new contact centre up in Belfast, and I spent 8 years there.
So
I started as a customer service advisor, but quite quickly progressed to senior customer service advisor and then a team manager. And I actually helped them set up their first outbound sales centre, which was just tremendous fun. I then did a stint in savings, unsecured personal loans, and then in recruitment as well.
So how did you get from being an advisor and climbing that ladder? Was that were they opportunities that just you were offered? Did you go looking for them? How did you get that progression at Santander?
So within Northern Ireland, because of the fair recruitment policies, everything has to be advertised and you have to be interviewed. So it's not possible simply just to step into a secondment or things like that. So the new senior customer service advisor roles were created. And I can remember one of the interviews and questions, and the reason why I got the job was the question was, 3 people want leave, they all want it on the same day. There's only room to allow one person to have leave. What would you do? And everyone's answer was, oh, we just put the names in the hat and draw the name out. And I said, well, no, we've got wall boards, so we know how busy it is. We plan for our rotas, so clearly there's a scientific way of being able to authorize annual leave. So that was what got me the job.
Fantastic. And so that got you into the team manager role?
So from senior customer service advisor, I quickly got experience around one-to-ones and coaching and developing people, and that ultimately led to the team manager role.
And do you see the team manager role being very similar, the role that you did back at Santander, when you compare it to the role today? Do you see that there's clearly similarities there, but what are the differences as well that you see?
So the responsibility that our team managers have now in terms of professionally developing their staff, nurturing their staff, looking after their well-being, making sure that we do everything that we need to do around diversity and inclusion. I think team managers nowadays have much more responsibility than what I probably would have had back in Santander days.
Interesting. So, but that you then said that you then had an opportunity to work elsewhere at Santander, and tell us a little bit more about those roles.
So I worked in a number of disciplines, so around loans, mortgages, savings. Setting up the outbound contact centre was fantastic because I got an opportunity to go across the UK, complete some benchmarking, really understand what best-in-class outbound operations looked like, and then set up the new service. And then when I was pregnant with my 3rd child, as I was going on to maternity leave, I started working in the recruitment department and making sure that the teams were set up for success while I went off on maternity leave.
That's fascinating. So, first of all, you're a mum of 3.
5.
You're a mum of 5. So you are a mum of 5.
Yeah. I've 4 of my own, and I have a stepson, Josh, as well.
Wow. And you have really progressed in your career. It goes to show that you can be a mum and have a fantastic career as well. But also during that time when you were saying about being a mum of 3 and getting the opportunity to work in lots of different parts of Santander, not just with the kinds of calls that you might be dealing with, but getting into recruitment as well. Again, was that something that you said, right, I want to change, I want to try something else? Or was that something that the opportunity kind of came by and you thought, oh, okay, I'll give that a go?
The opportunity came by, but I'm always interested in learning new things. So the fact that while it wasn't managing a team within the contact center space, I thought actually I could learn a lot more about myself, about the skills needed right across the various roles within the bank. So yeah, I just thought I'd do something different for a while. And I've always had my mum there, supporting me in terms of looking after the children. So the fact that, I had mum to support me and the flexibility that working in the contact center industry gives you, it was just a perfect storm.
Oh, perfect. So what happened after Santander? Where did you go, and why did you leave Santander after 8 years?
So I absolutely love Santander. But I've been really lucky to have a couple of really good senior leaders who have nurtured and mentored me throughout my journey. And one of those moved back into this contact center that I started off with in outsourcing. And after he'd been there for a couple of years, I decided the time was right to move back into outsourcing, and went back to Bangor where I started.
So this person that has, and you said you had some leaders that have really coached and mentored you, what kinds of advice that you recall them giving you through your career?
Gosh, in terms of how to practically, structure my day, because It's such a complex organization, both in banking and in outsourcing. Really understanding the levers and the drivers that you need to be aware of to make teams and organizations successful, and really that strategic leadership was the biggest area that they supported me in.
Interesting. So, what was it like working in an outsourcer?
Gosh, at the time, the contact center industry was still evolving in terms of its reputation and as a profession. But that said, moving from a highly regulated environment in banking to one that was ultimately focused on revenue margin and contract deliverables, it was actually quite similar because of the focus on those areas. What was really great to see when I was in outsourcing was the real shift in focus on our people. And we really started to see a real change in culture from our contact center advisors simply being assets or, quite frankly, extension numbers, to being the most important people in the organization. And in many ways, outsourcing is where I had one of my biggest periods of learning and growth, and I made some special lifelong friends.
What were the kind of things that you were learning? Where and it's great to see, and I guess that's about 15 years ago that is time frame that you're talking about. Yeah. What were the kind of big learnings for you during that time?
So I'd never really worked in an organization where you were ultimately responsible for the financial viability of an organization. You were ultimately responsible for whether contracts failed or succeeded, but equally, the staff that worked for you, you were responsible for their welfare, for their well-being. And, these guys were paid minimum wage. So if you made a mistake with their salaries, that was a real difference between whether they could put food on the table or whether they couldn't. So actually, out of everything, while yes, we had to be financially viable, we had to be successful to keep people in employment, looking after the people is really the most important thing.
And you were a senior operations manager at that time, and so that's a quite a key strategic role.
Yeah, so I when I joined, I was initially responsible just for one contact center in Bangor, but I was responsible for a number of government campaigns. So they started to grow, and ultimately I ended up general manager for the Identity and Passport Service. So I had 4 contact centres across the UK, as well as the Identity helpline and the Winter Fuel helpline. So quite a busy role, and that was particularly where the leadership skills came into play.
My goodness, and we won't talk about Passport Office anymore. So that must have given you that taste of public sector, because after you left the outsourcer, you then started your time in predominantly public sector space. Tell us more about where you went from.
Yeah, and that was a real coincidence. The move to Hackney was actually part of relocating my family to London. And as you recognise, while I'd never worked in a local authority before, I was responsible for a number of government campaigns. So that gave me a good understanding of how government organisations worked. But I also had the added experience of a real focus on commercial delivery, driving efficiencies from the outsourced background, and that's exactly what Hackney Council were looking for at the time.
Interesting. And so tell us a little bit more about so that relocation to London. That's a big step.
Yeah, everyone said I would only last 5 years, but yeah, I've been here 13 years now.
Do you plan to go back at any time?
Maybe when I'm retired and I want to go and live by the sea, but not quite yet.
Not yet. So I mean, that's a big ask to move to London. But you went in I'm going to say at a more senior role, maybe with more responsibility than you'd had at the outsourcer.
Yeah, I did. But what I really enjoyed the most about Hackney was the diversity. So rather, it didn't matter where I came into the organisation, but the opportunity to get involved with such diverse teams really provided me an opportunity to learn from others, learning about their backgrounds, their skills, their knowledge, areas of expertise, and different perspectives. And that can drive real change in culture and transformation. And within Hackney Contact Centre really was at the forefront of Drive in the early days of their digital transformation programme.
Oh, interesting. So, I mean, that's 10 or so years ago that they were therefore starting that digital. What did that mean that at that time? What did digital transformation mean 10, 12 years ago?
So it meant things like stopping thousands of paper application forms being processed every month, people having to come in face-to-face unnecessarily to provide information that they could simply provide online or on the telephone. It was a huge operation in terms of contact centre back office processing. But, you know, we had 18,000 people come in face-to-face every month to speak to a customer service advisor.
18,000?
18,000
into the office to come and see you.
Yeah.
Wow. And I guess at that time there was therefore a drive to try and avoid that and to therefore make the contact center, like say, more digital, but less face to face, because that's quite something to manage, having 18,000 in a year coming into the office.
Yeah, and there was much more in terms of telephone calls as well. So it was quite a balance, and the staff worked across both disciplines. So the resource planning was a bit of a challenge between telephones face to face and the back office processing.
Wow. So how long were you there at Hackney?
Gosh, I was at Hackney for about 4 years, and then I was headhunted for a role in Network Homes. So I joined Network Homes in the role of Director of Customer Access and Experience. And there I was privileged to be involved in their culture change programme, as well as their digital programme. So no matter where I go, I start in the contact centre and always end up leading the digital programmes. But this really did lead to the contact centre team being recognised, both internally within the organisation, but as gold winners across a number of awards programs, not to mention the biggest and best. But what made Network Homes so special was the people. So my contact centre team, they were, and they still are, just an amazing group of people. And they are really supported by the executive team. And that was really nice for me to see them recognised and for the work that, you know, that they were delivering and achieving. That was really, really important to me. And then after that, I came to Westminster, but that was a direct approach, but it was actually facilitated by the CCMA. So I do have the CCMA to thank for me being where I am today.
That's well. I'm pleased. I'm pleased that we've helped you in your career along the way. I want to go back to your time at Network Homes. You mentioned just there that you had the support of the executive. And I know that there will be organisations that will be listening in, and there's more support now than I think pre-pandemic. But there will be people that will be. We just don't have the support of the executive. How did that come about? Did they always recognise the value of the contact centre?
So they recognise the value of great customer service. Historically, they'd never really seen that being delivered in the contact centre. So through hard work and determination, really shaping and changing how the contact centre operated. We took them through, as I said, a culture change programme, and really by demonstrating the improvements in customer service delivery, in efficiencies, in productivity, they started to sit up and listen. I used to have to go and present to the customer service committee, which had our board members in attendance. And they then started to get encouraged by the change in direction and the change in results. So much so that the executive team started to come and visit. They sat in, listened into calls, and they really set the tone for the contact centre being at the heart of the organisation. And I know now, as part of their induction, it is still compulsory to spend half a day in the contact centre and really understanding the experiences that our customers have when they engage with any organisation, but also how complex, what a minefield it is being a customer service advisor.
That is so good to hear, and I hope that there are lots of people listening that will take that as a little bit of tip and advice to senior execs spending more time in the contact centre. We did see that during the pandemic. we did hear that more senior execs were listening in to just how difficult it can be being on the front line. So before I ask you more about Westminster, and before you tell us more about your role at Westminster and the things that you've been doing there, you talked about doing that culture change piece at Network Homes. Pulling on that, how did you do that? And what is really important to you within the culture?
Gosh, it seems like all roads come back to the CCMA, but I was at the Contact Centre Management Expo one year when I was at Network Homes, and I sat and watched a piece around culture change, and there was a lady, Fiona, talking around some work that she had done in another social housing provider around culture change, and using a particular customer service program that really focused on language, mindset, and actions. And I came back and went to the executive team and said, we must do this, we must do this. And a week later, she came walking through the office. I thought, what is this lady doing here? And I went and I spoke to HR and I said, do you know what Fiona is doing here? And she said, she's our new executive director of people and culture. So it was a real meeting of minds and just great timing. So through Fiona, we implemented the same culture change program. I became an accredited trainer. So I trained everybody from the caretaker to the chief exec on this new way of working. And the embedding was really important as well. So making sure that people just didn't come into a classroom, receive some customer service training and expected to get on with it. We had such great fun. We created all sorts of crazy videos around bringing the various tools and techniques to life. And we also then embedded it into our digital program. So everything within our digital program was really built with customers at the heart.
So that's fascinating, and it's great to hear that you're having that senior person coming in to really support on the culture piece. What's the most important thing for you in culture?
For me, it's around valuing diversity and inclusion. I really could not see myself working in an organization that is absolutely committed to supporting or not committed to supporting valuing diversity and inclusion, whether that's the diversity of our staff, the diversity of our customers. It is without question the most important thing for me.
And do you think that diversity, so it's interesting, we've been pulling this one apart a little bit, partly because of creating a new special interest group around D&I. Do you think that our industry is very diverse, more diverse than it was before maybe, and in comparison to maybe other industries? And what's your view on that? Do you see it being a diverse space?
So I see through the judging process the real commitment, but what I don't see is that in practice. So if you know, I go to so many contact center events, but they're mainly still full of white people. I think there's a good gender balance between men and women, but in terms of ethnicity, I think we've got a bit of work still to do in terms of encouraging people to see the contact center industry as a profession for all.
I really support that, and as well as like you say, there's the male-female split, obviously the non-binary, bringing more opportunities for non-binary, but also the ethnic split. But there's also the neuro split, and I'm not going to get the terminology right here. But there's the differences that we can't see, but also that I think there is more opportunity than maybe is offered for those with disabilities as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And Westminster's really good around providing support around accessibility needs, and whether that's for able-bodied people or people that might have particular disabilities. And in the contact center space, it's a great way to be able to learn and grow a new role for everyone. So I would encourage people, regardless of their backgrounds, their abilities, to really consider a profession in the contact center industry.
Yeah, I do too. I wholeheartedly agree. Now, the D&I has two parts to it. There's the diversity piece, and then there's the inclusion piece. Do you see contact centres getting better at the inclusion piece?
I can only speak for myself in terms of the experience that I have with my team. And Westminster are really obsessed, I would say, with making sure that everybody can be included in everything, and they make particular accommodations for the contact center team. So whether that is closing the contact center when we've got particular events that people can get involved in, or if we've got so we're coming up to Disability Awareness Month next month. And there are a series of workshops and events that have been planned at different times, so staff from the contact centre can absolutely be included and go along to those events, or they'll come to us. So if something has to happen on a particular time, on a particular day, the organisers will come into the contact centre and make sure that our guys are not forgotten about.
Ah, so good to hear. Tell us a little bit more about what you're doing at Westminster. Apart from the fact that we have amazing offices that overlook Buckingham Palace.
Yeah, it's a very, very special place to work, and it's not just the views, but I would say it's predominantly about the culture that we have at Westminster, and we call it the Westminster Way, and it's the DNA that how we lead our teams, how we value diversity and inclusion and support the growth and development of our people. Westminster City Council, it is the local authority serving the heart of London. Traditionally, we've got 1 million commuters and visitors that come in a day. We have 250,000 residents, 180 nationalities with over 150 different languages spoken, so hugely diverse. When I first joined Westminster, I joined our housing department, and I've since then moved into our new digital and innovation service. I now understand the language that people speak. This time last year, I thought that everyone spoke a completely different language to me. And I now have responsibility over user research, UX and service design, the experience our users have when they engage with us online, digital transformation, and our contact centres. And we've just created our new digital and innovation service, and that's based around 3 key pillars. One is around creating value and efficiency through digital. So that just means creating digital services that are simple, effortless, and accessible. And now the dogs are barking, so I'm so sorry. We knew this was going to happen. We've also got enabling Fair Westminster through smart city and innovation, empowering and engaging our communities. So really that enhanced community engagement, collaboration, co-design, designing services that really meet the needs or the needs of our residents. And then we've got our general foundation pillars, and that's around, just that good digital culture of innovation and collaboration. So due to the success of the transformation of our housing contact centre, we've just insourced our corporate contact centre, and the outsourced arrangement with our daytime outsourced provider ends next week. But these new guys, they are so special. They're so positive, creative, proactive, and they really are customer obsessed. They really are role models for our organisation. And as within Network Homes, these guys have the full support of our chief executive and our executive team. They're allowed to get involved in so much more than, just contact centre delivery. So last week, some of the team went along to Marylebone Boys School to support some families really with the cost of living crisis. So they attended an open day. They helped parents complete online applications to apply for free school meals. And that's really about supporting our young people to thrive. And also they raise valuable funds for the school through pupil premium. And that's, for me, what good customer service is all about. It's really making a difference to our communities.
Wow. Oh, you should share some of those stories on LinkedIn. one of the things I'm really keen to see is more of the great stuff that contact centres are doing. Those stories going out into the community and helping people complete online application forms. So valuable. Amazing. What's the best advice that you have ever received?
It's never give up learning. Always have a growth mindset. That's really important. And it certainly allowed me to take on new and exciting challenges. So as you can hear from my history, I've had an opportunity to get involved in so many areas of businesses, and just through that contact center entry level access to organizations. And it's really helped me increase my ability and ultimately achievements.
And do you know what? That learning, continuous learning, moving into digital, new channels, bringing in new stuff. It's great having the basics, but that continuous learning enables you to stay that one step ahead, which is amazing. And sticking on that, what do you wish you'd learned sooner?
Do you know, it's around knowing my purpose and why I do the work I do. So when I joined local government and social housing, I was always really blown away by those in the public sector that had a real calling and wanting to make a difference to society. And I always felt a little bit of a fraud. I knew that was important to me, but I knew there was something else and I just couldn't put my finger on it. But actually, it's about making the difference to the people who work for us. And now I know that I'm no longer a fraud because I do know my why.
Oh, that's so good. And it sounds like you've made a real difference to people throughout your career. It's fascinating to hear the different opportunities you've had and how important culture is to you. And I mean, I hear that when I'm talking to contact center leaders, the importance of culture, but it's really fascinating to hear it come to life. I've got 3 rapid fire questions. Are you ready? I say rapid fire, I always end up having a chat after each one. Which is your favorite season?
Winter. Love the winter. Love Christmas. I turn into an elf at Christmas. I get so excited. Yeah, so winter for me.
When do you get your Christmas tree out?
So it's always the first weekend in December.
Yeah, don't blame you. Sometimes I do actually get it up the last weekend in November if I've got people coming to stay. But
so we've got some birthdays in November, so we have to let the birthday celebrations finish first.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you, but it's an early one. Okay, dogs or cats?
Oh, well, as you heard, I've got 3 dogs who always like to get involved in my online readings. So I have Ethel, she is a 13-year-old French bulldog. And I have Hugo and Hector, who are 1-year-old, but they are huge German short-haired pointers who are very naughty, let's just say. But I so desperately want a cat. I so desperately want a cat. I'm not allowed one.
Why aren't you allowed a cat?
Oh, well, we live quite near a busy road. House cat would do me fine. I'm quite happy to have a little house cat.
Do you know what? We used to have cats, and unfortunately, our back lane that we live on, occasionally it has fast cars because we're on a rat run to the station, and we've lost a few cats. Hence the reason why we now have a dog. So last question, what are you most looking forward to?
This is an easy one. We have our head judges briefing coming up next week, which means that it is award season, and hearing from the very best in our industry about their achievements is a real privilege that I will be forever grateful to have.
Oh, thank you so much, Sarah. We have got the briefing coming up, and we can't wait to kick off the UK National Contact Centre Awards 2023, which is so exciting. Sarah, thank you so much. Thank you for all your support, both for CCMA and the awards programme. But thank you so much for talking to me today. I really appreciate it.
You're very welcome, Lee.
Take care. Have a good rest of the day.
Bye-bye.